in a funny kind of way, it's almost not competing. I don't really look at the other bike parks. One of the reviews that we had was that by the end of the day, you feel like you're sort of part of the Hafod family, and that's it. That is it. That is like hitting the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned.
Brilliant.
We have riders that have been here from 3. The youngest has been 3. The oldest has been 82, I think.
Wow.
But age, gender, ability, it makes no difference. We can all have fun on a mountain bike. It's kind of my personal mission to get more women, and particularly young women and girls, to mountain biking. And I've got a plan. I'm a woman with a plan. I built, and I say I because it has been me. One of the things I have learned actually with all of this is you've got to blow your own trumpet because no one else is going to do it for you. Recognise your achievements and actually go. I was always like a little bit too like, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. But no, I've been more like, you know what, actually yes, because women in particular and young girls, they need somebody to stand up.
Welcome to another episode of Ride to Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopes. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. And in this episode, we are talking with Charlie Kingswood. She is the co-founder of Hafod Trails, a small, soulful bike park in southwest Wales that is punching way above its weight through innovation, inclusiveness, community, and resilience. This episode has so many takeaways because I think this story can relate to you in many different ways, because it talks about how to turn a small idea into a scalable venture. It talks about how designing for access and inclusiveness. It talks about how to navigate a family-run project without burning out. And it talks about how bouncing back from the universe when the universe throws a storm your way. So stick with us until the end, because Charlie gives us a step-by-step framework of the operational side of running a bike park, the design tweaks that her team did to make the bike park more inclusive, more friendly, and the mindset reframe that she had to go through to help her rebuild the bike park after the storm. And most importantly, how she welcomes new riders and makes the community feel welcome through celebrating every win, making kid-friendly systems, which helps then grow loyalty and future-proof the sport of mountain biking. So if you ever wondered, do I have what it takes to build something that matters? The answer is yes. And Charlie's journey is a resounding proof of that. If you start, learn fast, and keep showing up, the results will come. So let's get into this episode. Welcome, Charlie, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Great to be here.
Brilliant. I wanted to start by first understanding a little bit about you as a person, and how did mountain bike come into the scene? Because it's not a given where bikes come into every person's life. So I wanted to just understand that first of all, kind of so that to set the scene for the conversation.
Okay. Well, like most kids, I had a bike growing up and used to hare around the garden on a I think it was a little pink rally, I think, with a basket on the front. And we had a couple of steps out the back of the house that myself and my brother used to ride down and jump off and things like that. But definitely not mountain biking. I did a little bit in my late teens, but then sort of discovered motorbikes rather than mountain bikes. So that was my calling for a few years. Really got back into it during COVID, really, actually. It gave me a purpose, something that I could do, and discovered the amazing group that is, although they're not so prevalent anymore, but Dame Forest Cycling in the Forest of Dean. Yeah, and an amazing, inspiring, supportive bunch of women that during COVID you could obviously only exercise in groups of 6. So if you committed to a ride, you kind of had to go. And it's what got me out every week. And I used to look forward to that Saturday morning, come rain or shine. And obviously anybody that's ever ridden in the Forest of Dean knows that it can be a little bit slippery when it's wet. And sort of, I look back on those times actually stupidly with quite a lot of fondness, actually. Really enjoyed riding with them. Massive improvements in my fitness and how much I enjoyed going out on the bike. And I think that's just time on the bike, isn't it? You know, more time.
There's also there's also the element of the welcoming part of the group games. And I wanted you to touch a little bit on that, because I think that's, especially from my research and from speaking with other people, is quite important in the mountain biking community. But it cuts across all kind of disciplines. Like, how important was to find that group of women
for me
to ride with?
For me, it was essential. It got me going, and it motivated me to carry on going. And I'm the sort of person that doesn't want to let anybody down. That's my sort of one of my personality traits. And from that, there was that element of, well, I've committed to going, so I have to go. But it wasn't just that. I really enjoyed it. And I think that I remember how nervous I was the very first time that I went out on one of the day rides. And I'd spoken, not spoken, but I'd messaged Helen backwards and forwards. And I think she knew that I was a little bit nervous. And I kind of wandered over to the outside the cafe, and I was just like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who I'm meeting or anything like that. But as soon as you kind of take that leap and make that sort of those connections, I was well away. Loved it, absolutely loved it. So yeah, but it is important to have that motivation, I suppose, to a degree. And for me, that came in the form of wanting to go because I liked the people I was riding with and didn't want to kind of be the one that didn't go and wussed out because of the weather. Or
and you mentioned motivation, but there's also I imagine that is also kind of something else pulling you. What particularly what drew you to that group in particular?
Welcoming. They were just so welcoming. There wasn't any pressure. There was just like masses of gentle support. And for me, I got kind of, I think probably 2, maybe 3 rides under my belt, and I started seeing my fitness improving. And they were funny times of COVID anyway, weren't they? So it was one of those that just sort of motivated me, because I'd been doing a little bit of riding with the kids because my kids started to get into, they had their first bikes, and then obviously then there's a ramp, and then there's the whole riding down steps thing, all of those things sort of had started to happen. And I realised pretty quickly I needed to up my game because my young children were becoming better than me. That's happened now, and I've come to terms with that. But yeah, no, it we started riding together as a family, and it started off. We lived very close to the Forest of Dean at the time, so we started riding the family trail, and then it sort of progressed to the downhill trails and the cross country trails, and yeah, it was just a very natural progression, really, for me.
So, kind of locate us in time. So, COVID times. Are we talking about 2021, 2020?
No, so I started getting back into bikes just before COVID, but then it sort of so it was just. I was pregnant with my third. So that's 2018, 2019. And then William was born March 2019. And then we started going out again with him in his car seat in a trailer as a tiny little tot. And yeah, it sort of went from there. So we're looking at sort of properly starting to get back into it 2019, 2020.
So, kind of, it sounds like the community, that group, Dames, Forest of Dean, really welcomed you, and that made you even
100%.
more interested, excited
Yeah.
about mountain biking, and you
Very
saw
much.
the progression as well.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it. So also, you had the motivation factor of, keeping up with the kids or going out with them on bike rides, which is obviously amazing as a family experience. So kind of, I want now to jump into, to take us back to the beginning of what started the inception of the story of moving to and starting the Hafod Trails.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a bit of a lifestyle change more than anything. And we bought this place at the beginning of 2022. And
when you say lifestyle change, was this something that you wanted to just...
It's something that we've been talking about doing for a long time,
right.
Years and years and years. And it was always the idea that we were going to pool resources. So it's myself and my husband and our 3 kids who are just along for the ride. And then my brother and my mum and dad. So we put everything together, sold houses, sold boats, sold all sorts. That's another story. Sold everything and pooled the resources to buy the farm, Hafod Trails. And wasn't really, a bike park wasn't really the plan. We knew we wanted to do something with mountain biking.
So let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in that kind of pivot, and that pivot might actually reveal a little bit more about the kind of the motivation and kind of your personality. Sorry to interrupt you there. What I'm interested is, what you've done in terms of pulling resources as a family and kind of buying a farm.
Excuse me. Yeah.
What was the ambition with the farm? What did you think it would happen from pulling these resources and buying a farm? What do you wanted to achieve from that?
So we actually need to rewind a year. We had agreed a purchase of a relatively large farm up on the edge of Eryri in North Wales.
Right.
And it was complicated, as these big farm purchases always are, and there was sort of other things going on. Anyway, eventually, after about 11 months of trying to buy it, it all fell out of bed. It obviously wasn't meant to be. So that was in the November of 21 that it all went wrong. So the purchase of this, it was a bit of a strange one, really, because it was very different area, different size, different everything about it was just completely different as a farm. But it just sort of struck us as somewhere that we could reset a little bit, I suppose, to a degree.
Yeah.
And we were not reeling as such. We were all very disappointed that the other one had fallen through. And it was a case of, well, why don't we just move to Wales? The kids can start being educated in Welsh. We can make the move. And oh my God, I'm so glad that we did, because we've landed in the most amazing area where people are simply the best. They are not just friendly, they are above and beyond helpful. And
important, yeah.
So welcoming, which is amazing. And I for one have zero regrets about. You can't look back and change things, because what's done is done. No. But I've got no regrets, actually, that we've ended up here, as opposed to the place up in North Wales. So from that perspective, I think these things are meant to be. And I absolutely love living here. The kids have settled in amazingly well to school, and it was obviously a big move, in terms of for them and everything that they had to, change in order to kind of adapt to a different way of life. And there is a different way of life, but it's for the best.
Is it a case of moving from the city to the countryside?
No, we were in a small village, and it was. physically and mentally quite a big move, because Tom and I had always lived in that village. We both grew up in the village. My parents and my brother had subsequently moved away, but not that far. And so it was a move that was a bit of a strange one for us, because we'd always lived there. And the kids went to the same school that my husband went to, and it was a big move, but it was still a village setting. But now we are very rural now. There's not much that goes on around here, but again, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but you gained from the sounds of it, like you gained a community of people that,
oh my gosh, yeah,
kind of are supportive of your family and what you're doing.
Yeah, very much so. We may sort of live out of the village, but we have our village here. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so let's now go back to continue the story about the inception of Hafod Trails.
Of the bike park. So there was a lot to do. The farm had been in the same ownership for 27 years. And as the previous owner had got a little bit older, she was struggling to keep up with the maintenance and the upkeep of the farm. So there was an awful lot that we had to reclaim. There was areas of the farm that we only ventured into at the beginning of this year, because it was just so much. It was just so overgrown. Alex, my brother, used to go off on sort of evening mowing missions and just find new parts of the farm, and just the brambles, you wouldn't believe. They're absolutely crazy how much they can just take over an area if left to their own devices. Right. So we spent the best part of a year sort of figuring out what we were going to do, and how we were going to do it, and making sure that the land management was starting to be done again, because it just hadn't been managed. There was, as I say, huge areas that were massively wild, let's put it that way. So from that perspective, it all started with Facebook. Actually, I was scrolling Facebook, and I saw an advert for Western bike events, and they were looking for landowners who were open to building trails or having trails put in on their land, and holding parts of Western bike events, bike series, enduro series. And I was just like, oh, we could maybe do that, because we knew we wanted to do something when it came to mountain biking. This area.
Right, so that's where I wanted to get at. So you wanted already. So, or I guess from the experience that you had mountain biking before, you already something you wanted to create. Why was that? What was the reason behind wanting to create something like trails or like a space mountain bike?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily going to be trails, and it wasn't really until we got here and we started exploring that there was a very definitive top and bottom to the hill. Right. And I know that sounds silly. That might sound silly to anybody listening that goes, well, surely you would have looked around the farm. You could look around the farm, but you could only get to where you could get to. So when we bought the farm, there was huge areas that we hadn't been to, just because physically you couldn't get there without sort of a machete or a massive mower. So when we got here, I was like, well, there is actually a very, very, that's the top and that's the bottom. And there was a simple way up, and I just thought, oh yeah, maybe this would work. So anyway, we put a little trail in for the kids, just behind one of the barns, and it was about 30 meters. It wasn't particularly big, and everybody quite enjoyed building it. We were quite liked it.
It was like a family affair. It sounds like everyone chips in. Yeah.
I've got some great pictures of the kids, like spades, and get in there and having a great laugh. And so it's one of those that it just sort of spiraled a little bit, if I'm honest, because we thought, maybe we could do some kind of like guided tours or bike accommodation or something along those lines.
So you started seeing the potential of like, okay, so we gathered we made this into a family project, building
Yeah.
that 30-meter like
Yeah.
kids trail, and then kind of started like looking, oh, the potential is here, or the ideas, the kind of the seed was planted, if you will,
Yeah.
and then
And
was
then
that
we saw
after that you
Christmas
saw
happen.
the ad,
Yeah.
or was it
Yeah.
at the same time?
No, it was a little bit after that.
Mm.
And we'd had this sort of conceptual idea of, maybe a bike park could work. We thought that there would be limitations with what we could do with the site in terms of the size. We're not huge, and also a little bit location. Although Brecfa, which is literally just over the road over there, Brecfa Forest is quite well known. It's kind of like the best kept secret in mountain biking. It's got a bit of a cult following. Those that know Brecfa know how good it is. Well, was before the storm. Sadly, the storm Dara did a lot of damage there. But prior to that, it's a bit of it does have there's some brilliant trails in there, and so it was just like, well, maybe we could sort of do something with that. Anyway, we saw this advert, and Richard Bunting from Western Bike Events came and had a look, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, this could work. It's interesting what you've got." He had a little look at the trail that we put in, and that, by which time that had got a bit bigger actually. Because the kids got a bit bored of just riding 30 meters and then pushing back up again, so we extended it a bit. And then literally the rest is history. So I think he penciled us in for July 24. That's right. And then there was forestry works happening in Avan, which meant that he wasn't able to do the round in Avan that he planned in 23. So he actually phoned us with about 10 weeks to go, saying, "Don't suppose you could pull something out of the bag this year, could you?" And we're like, "Give us 24 hours. Let's have a think about it." So we went back to him the next day, and we're like, "Right then, let's give it a go." So I think it was 10 weeks and 2 days. We built 5 trails. And then hosted 250 odd riders here over a weekend. Yeah, it was amazing.
So that was like kind of the proof that it worked. So you were able to build the trails.
Yes.
People came to you, and how was the experience? How was the experience for the people, the first people that tested your trails?
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, it was a real buzz to kind of watch everybody riding here. It was a little bit surreal, actually. It was a little bit bizarre. And actually now, if you look at the trails now in comparison to what they look like on the event, if you rode the event and then you came now, it's virtually unrecognisable. And I think that we learned a lot. We learned loads actually from that. And then you've got these sort of enduro stages, which you've then got to turn into a bike park. And yeah, it's quite different. There's quite a lot more involved in building bike park trails than there are trails that are going to just have a real hard hit for like 2 days and then nothing. So yeah, we had to. There was a process that we had to sort of go through to sort of make it into a bike park. But
so did you already have experience of building these trails, or like, because I'm guessing there is some kind of, I would imagine, engineering know-how into putting together a trail that will live for a year over. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a process that we've learned and developed over the time that we've been doing it as well. Because I think that every site, every venue is going to be different. The stone and the hill that we have here is different to, I don't know, Bike Park Wales, for example, or Revolution or Dovey. We've all got different strata. We've all got different rocks. We've all got different types of soil. So from that perspective, I couldn't go and build a trail somewhere else without a little bit of knowledge, and that knowledge is only achieved by doing it, I suppose, to a degree.
Did you think,
and then the hills still have surprises for you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
The hills still will chuck surprises at you.
yeah, I'm sure. Do you think that's like having that ambition and kind of that the attitude of, we can do that, well, let's try and achieve these in 10 weeks and 2 days? Do you think
Yeah.
that was part of your, I guess, success in like having, I don't know, what I'm trying to get is that was the lack of experience beneficial in the end, or vice versa? You already having some experience was what allowed you to think, yes, we can do this.
A little bit of both, actually. So when we initially agreed to host the event, I suppose there was a degree of naivety, and like, yeah, we can do this. And actually, the trail side of things was comparatively quite easy.
Right. Okay.
The more tricky things were the rest of the infrastructure that we had to put together. So we needed to make sure that the pedal up was working. We need to make sure that the car park didn't turn into a bog. We needed to make sure that there was adequate toilet facilities. All of these things that you that surround an event. You sort of think it's all about the trails, and it is a lot about the trails. Don't get me wrong. But there's all the other stuff that you have to do.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And whilst Richard did a chunk of it, we helped him out quite a lot with a lot of the things. So from that perspective, it opened my eyes actually as to how much was involved in event kind of organisation.
Yeah, I mean, events organization is a skill. I am like through like organizing events myself, through going to events myself. It's just it's very easy to forget that there's a whole load of logistics that happens.
So much behind
the curtain. Yeah, that you don't know, you don't realize. But if it wasn't there, if it wasn't set up, you would notice it. But because it's set up well, things just run smoothly. That you expect it, and it happens, and it's great. Everyone has a great time. But if things are not accounted for, then it's problematic. Was this like what? Yes. And before we get into kind of you actually officially opening doors as a trail center, was this like at that point when kind of hosting this event, the first event, was it still very much a kind of a family affair with everyone like working together? How was it?
Yeah, very much so.
How was it? Yeah, well, how was the kind of the logistic of it? Was it like grandparents, grandchildren, parents, everyone working together, like doing their own bits and contributing?
We had to. Yeah, we had to. I think everybody pulling together was what allowed us to pull off that event. And it was a sort of like, well, we can't fail attitude. We have to do it. We've committed to it. So we've got to pull it off. And again, sort of in that moment, you just go on with it, don't you? And everybody had their kind of role to play, and we just did it. We just got on with it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of our mantra, really. No one else is going to do it, so we've just got to get on and do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, that's the can-do attitude is evident through how you've been describing the challenges and like how you overcame them.
Yeah.
And which makes me think, you as a family unit has been very involved in the creation, and it's kind of you have, by the sounds of it, raised it all together, more or less. And I'm interested in finding out, like, from working as a family unit, to building and launching Hafod Trails. What have you learned along the process? Because it's got, I'm sure, working alongside family can be challenging, can be rewarding. You learn a lot of things along the way. And what has been the lessons for you?
They're just so much. I've learned a lot about myself. So Alex and I grew up in a family that worked in family businesses. So my dad worked with my uncle and my grandfather. My grandmother was involved in the family business. My mum was involved in the family business. So we weren't strangers to that kind of way of life. And I remember growing up and it was fraught at times, because you can't leave work at work. Work was home. And I should have maybe learnt from that, but I don't think I have enough, to be honest with you, because I do. That's one of the things that I struggle with, is kind of separating that work and home. And I think that line for me can become quite blurred sometimes, which is something that I'm personally working on. But when it comes to working with family, I think that it can be challenging at times, but the rewards that you could reap are phenomenal. When you do it with your family, when you succeed with your family, and you all know how hard you're all working, that is it's the best feeling. And whether it's a small win or pulling off the organisation of an event in 10 weeks, either way, it's great, and I look back on what we've done over the past few years, and I think of all the trees that we've planted, and the kids got involved in that, and Mum and Dad were involved in that, and there's 3,400 of them or something like that, and all of those trees we lovingly, put in the ground and planted, and now we're starting to see, and that's a great life lesson for the kids. Actually, we're now starting to see those tiny little saplings that we put in are now taller than me, and it just, I think it's really nice for the kids to see that and see what you can do when you work together. And I think in the moment, as a child, you don't really value that. But I think in the years to come, they will. Because I know I certainly did. I know how hard my parents and my grandparents worked to make their businesses a success. And there was sometimes sacrifices that went along the way. But looking back now, I can completely appreciate those sacrifices. But yes, I am personally trying to strike a better balance. But I think we all bring something to the party. So Alex comes from an engineering background, fabrication. He's got one of those brains that can just visualize things. And I'm forever like in debt to him in terms of like how he's come at this with an approach that most 99% of the population wouldn't have a clue about. Myself and Tom have both come from a sort of sales, customer service background, and I think that we've all come at it with a proper grafting attitude.
Which is important, for sure.
Yeah. And you sort of learn to use people's strengths and help others with their weaknesses. And I think that where I struggle with things, the other two can help me pick up my slack, I suppose, to a degree. And that's what works. That's what works.
Yeah, I think it's very much important to recognize the strengths and weaknesses and help each other kind of like complement their strengths and their weaknesses, because that's how you kind of remain as a strong unit, and kind of I guess you bond over it as well. I'm sure that the running a trail center, running a family business, there's a lot of setbacks, there's a lot of challenges that come with it, as you mentioned. But that is a great opportunity to bond and create a unity that is, people look at.
Agreed.
So in admiration.
I'd like to think so. But people often ask, "Well, is it not like really stressful and really difficult?" Well, yeah, it can be. It can be at times.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
But I think I'm known for, whilst I'm a worrier, I am inherently positive about everything. I think to the annoyance of Tom and Alex sometimes, because I will always try and find a positive out of a crappy situation. And I must admit, I struggled during Storm Dara, or the aftermath of Storm Dara, because I was struggling to find a positive out of that. And I kept telling myself the whole time, there will be a silver lining, there will be a silver lining. And I guess there sort of has been a few, but I think in the moment it's difficult sometimes to find that. But I think the most important thing is communication, and we don't get it right all the time. But my grandfather always used to say what you mean and mean what you say. And we do try to sort of do that. If somebody's got a problem or a question or an issue, raise it, because it's far better to talk about these things than not. And I think you'll find that when you come at it with a collective mind, a problem or not a problem even necessarily, but something that you need to find a solution for, 3 minds or 5 minds are better than one. And you will often find that the result is far more creative and sure, because you've come at it with more people.
Yeah, that's such an important insight, because you kind of have to you have to navigate kind of complexities of relationships that comes with communication, how well you do it, or not, or like the problems that can arise from that. And it can be a minefield if things are if people are not communicating well, or if the team is not working together, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Kind of it shows then.
But that's the same as to any group, whether you're talking about a family or a bunch of work colleagues or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Everybody, as individuals, we're all different people, and we're coming at things from a different angle. And it's about compromise as well, to a degree. And we don't always agree, but we don't fall out about things. We just appreciate that there's different ways of coming at things, and we tend to kind of defer to the person that feels the strongest about something, or has that experience, I suppose. So as far as trails and the trail building side of things, that tends to fall more to my brother and Tom than me, whereas more of the kind of the customer facing type element that comes down to me, really. And I think that when it comes to sort of issues or potential issues, that's how we solve it. We solve it together, but yes, it's nice to take in everybody's sort of opinion about these things too.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, everyone has a balance, have their own responsibilities.
Yes.
And that kind of allows you to have that as well, I guess, that mindset that I'm responsible for this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But still, that's like, there's a whole project that involves everyone.
Yeah, you've got that backup. Yes, agreed.
Yeah. And you also kind of touched on the effects of Storm Darrow, and that's devastated your trails, and you spent a lot of time clearing and rebuilding. And you mentioned you struggled to see the silver lining in the aftermath of the storm.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a kind of, you touch on it. I was thinking about this because it's such an I guess a crucial point in the short life of Hafod Trails, because it's something that is outside of your control, and so many times as humans we strive for control. And I wanted to I'm interested to find out what was the silver lining of the Storm Darrow.
Okay, so in the moment, obviously it happened just before Christmas. Well, not just before Christmas, but the beginning of December, 7th of December. It was a little bit surreal when the storm was happening, because there is literally nothing you can do. Nothing. You're completely powerless. And all you could hear around were crashes and bangs and snapping, like shredding wood. I can't quite explain the sound to you.
Wow.
When everything is just falling around down your ears. But there were so immediate silver linings. One, there was no building damage. We didn't sustain any damage to the buildings, which was a good thing. We had a lot of neighbours that lost roofs on their barns, lost livestock. It wasn't.
Yep.
We got away with it quite lightly, as far as some people were concerned. But again, in the moment, you don't really see that. I think that when you've got something unexpected, you can't plan for the unexpected because it's unexpected. But it being unexpected and happening out of the blue, I mean, we knew we were going to get a storm, but not to that extent. And I think actually outside of this area, people don't really realise how bad it was. There are hundreds of thousands of hectares of trees that are just sideways in forests in this area. Like you can't like actually understand the vastness of the damage that's been done. And it's still sideways. It's still stuff that I don't even know how they're going to clear it. But that's not my problem. Silver linings were, we had trail damage, we had infrastructure damage, have as a consequence had to redesign some trails because trees came up, took trails with them. We damaged some trails taking the timber out as well. Because we're not blessed with like lovely big fire roads and things like that. It's a relatively small farm ultimately. So we had to use a lot of trails in some cases to get the timber out. So we tried to take the timber out, repair as we went, and that worked really well for the most part. So the silver linings are that we've redesigned some of the trails, and actually there's one particular trail I got in mind that is just so much fun. It was fine before, but it's like really, really good now. And I suppose it's taught us that you can't sweat the small stuff. That's a big silver lining for me, actually. It's a slight sort of change of attitude as to, that was cataclysmic. It was such an event for us. It was like a pivotal moment where we were like, how are we going to recover from this? Physically, mentally, financially, everything was just completely depleted. And I don't want to add up what it cost us. I don't want to know. I've got no interest in that. It was what it was. And I'm just hoping that there isn't another event like that this year. But if there is, there is, and we'll deal with it. And I think that is the sort of attitude that you've got to have, because if you don't have that attitude, you're beaten.
So it sounds like there's kind of that silver lining what allowed you to have a mindset shift. Really, it's like now you see the work you've done so far, Hafod Trails, and now you the kind of, if you will, correct me if I'm wrong, you gain a new outlook in how things need to be run. For you, does it boil down to focusing on the bigger picture, focusing on the positives rather than focusing on the small stuff?
It is, don't sweat the small stuff. It is a case of look at what you've got and look at what you've achieved. And yes, there are setbacks. Sometimes those setbacks are massive and you can't actually see a way around them. But actually, when you think of, there's a scale of setbacks and nothing is insurmountable. Nothing is insurmountable. If you throw enough time at something or money or attitude or whatever, most problems, you can solve most problems. And I'm really lucky, and I genuinely think that this is one of the keys to our success, is that I know that between the three of us, and then with the backup of mum and dad, we can do most things that we turn our hand to. Mm-hmm. We'll give it a damn good go anyway. And I think that is the attitude that I've come away with it, that you can't worry about things because it's so disabling if you're constantly going through life worrying what's going to happen, because you can't control it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's so many things in life that you can't control, and if you worry about them, it just, I would say it's a huge, kind of a huge impact on your kind of energy.
Yeah,
because you are worried about something that you don't have control, and you could just, if you can shift the mindset into focusing on what you achieved, focusing on what you can control, and like giving your energy to that
positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that you can actually influence.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to this conversation now, is like, it's focusing on the positive in what you are able to change. And this storm happened in December 2024, and a few months later, New Year, in the summer of 2025, Hafod Trails won the iBike Ride UK Trail of the Year. So you done it, so beating other parks, bigger, but the point is you won it. And I wanted to understand, I mean, from your perspective, what made what made the difference in your perspective to achieve that accolade?
Okay,
because the trails were destroyed. You spent a few months rebuilding them.
Yeah.
And but that alone is not everything. In order to achieve this, it needs to be something rooted in how you operate the Hafod Trails, the culture behind it. How you include and welcome people, families, women. So talk us through that.
We came second to Bike Park Wales in 24.
Okay.
And we'd only been open for 3-4 months at the time. So for me, remarkable. I was like, wow, this is, at the end of, when the results were announced, then at the end of August, I think it was, 24, I was like, wow, if we can do that in 4 months, bring on next year type thing. And then obviously a lot happened over the winter and all the rest of it. And I suppose in a funny kind of way, it's almost not competing. I don't really look at the other bike parks. Let's just use Bike Park Wales, for example. They've won this. They won the iBike Ride Trail of the Year for 3 years or so before we run it this year, and obviously then came second this year. But I don't really look at Bike Park Wales as competition. We're so totally different to Bike Park Wales. Yes, we're both bike parks. Yes, we're both uplift venues. Yes, we both have trails. But what we do is so intrinsically different. Mm-hmm. Bike Park Wales is an epic venue. It's amazing. But we do things differently. We're not trying to be Bike Park Wales. I don't want to be Bike Park Wales.
So how do you do this differently?
Wales, say again, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to ask, how do you do it differently?
So they do them very well.
Yeah, I'm interested in what you do.
Us very well. So we have oh gosh, it's such a cliche, right? So an old manager of mine used to say, people buy from people. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And
It's not a cliche, but it's true. But yeah.
yeah. So I've kind of used that mantra in my sort of life ever since then. I want people to come here and have the most amazing day, leave with a massive smile on their face, planning their next trip. That's what I want.
Yeah.
If I can do that, or if we can do that, because it isn't just me, it's down to everything. Yes. If we can do that at the end of the day, then as far as I'm concerned, tick, done. And we have our USPs, we have our unique selling points. And those unique selling points make us. So we have our awesome uplift system, which is, you look through our Google reviews, 4 out of 5 will mention the uplift. 4 out of 5 will also mention the burgers as well, but I've only got the butchers to thank for that.
What does it make a difference about the lifts?
Okay,
for people that don't know.
The trailers that my brother designed and fabricated, he came at it with a problem-solving attitude. Bike trailers are notoriously difficult to load. I'm not silly when it comes to handling bikes. Towards the end of a day, I'm struggling to get even my analog bike up onto a bike trailer. There's a technique, I get it, but as you get tired throughout the day, and then you've got to faff around with straps and bungees.
Let me just kind of pause you there. Okay. For people that don't understand or can't visualize what you're talking about, I want you like to explain it to me, like as if I'm a 5-year-old, like, and what is the difference that you've made in your bike park?
Very simply, if you are a 5-year-old on our bike trailers, you will be able to load your own bike.
Just by pushing it?
You've got to lift it a little bit, but you've only got to lift half the bike, and I'll explain that in a minute. So with a standard bike trailer, you've got to lift it up onto its rear wheel, hump it up onto the trailer, get it into a very specific slot, and then lash it on. And as a 5-year-old, you're not going to be able to do that. With the best one in the world, you're not going to be able to do it. So you're going to have to get your adult to help you. Even as an adult, I have to get a bigger adult to help me sometimes. So that isn't a criticism of a 5-year-old or you as a 5-year-old. That's a criticism
of the system.
Yeah, absolutely. So what my brother Alex wanted to do was to create something, and he's been fuzzing this idea over in his head for a number of years. He wanted to create something that was customer loaded, that could be realistically loaded by the majority of customers.
Yeah, by children.
That didn't store bikes upright on their rear wheel, because often bikes don't really like being stored up like that. Brakes go funny and all sorts of things. That there was no risk of the bike being damaged. No straps that damage your handlebars, all of these things. One of the main benefits of this is that it's quick. So half of the time that you spend loading a standard bike trailer is spent strapping your bike to the trailer so it doesn't fall off, which is a good thing. You don't want it falling off. So the trailer system that my brother designed, the bikes are sort of lifted on, but the trailers are sort of knee height for me. So even smaller people and kids can do it relatively easily. You then push your bike backwards, and then there's a over center mechanism which locks the bike in, and it grips it at the rear of the rear tire, the bottom of the rear tire, and the bottom of the front tire. So there's 3 points of contact, and it's points of contact on a tire. So that's designed to kind of squeeze and be, without any damage. None of the bikes touch. You can put a great big 29XL bike next to a 16-inch bike, and they won't clash, they won't damage.
Yeah.
The bikes literally will fit from a 10, 12 inch, it doesn't really matter what size it is, it can be as tiny as you like. A tiny weeny little bike up to great big long extra long bikes and everything in between with no adjustment.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's well, from what you're telling us, it's kind of this unique selling point. It's
Yes.
like it's unique to your bike park, and
Correct.
I think that's kind of speaks to how you want to make the bike park more accessible for beginners, for families, for kids.
Yeah.
And this is something that makes you stand out from other parks. Is there other ways that you make the bike park more inclusive?
I hate to say it, us. I make the point of talking to people if they want to be spoken to. Some people don't, and that's fine. I respect that. But yeah, we'll have a chat. We'll sit down. I've recently taken over the catering from a local couple that unfortunately aren't able to do it anymore, but from down the road. Up until that point, I'd sit and have a burger with people at lunchtime and have a chat. I still get to do that now, but I'm also just serving their food. And I think that it's little things like there's one little lad who likes rocks.
Right.
He and I both like rocks. I like rocks. And he was searching around the car park looking for cool rocks, and I went and grabbed a couple of my cool rocks to throw with him. It's little things like that, where Eddie and I bonded over rocks, which was quite cool. Somebody, we get a lot of people that not a lot of people. We get the mechanicals and things like that. We will always do our very, very best to kind of keep people going. Some of the things that we've lent people to put on their bikes, a saddle. Somebody lost a saddle once, so I lent them my saddle. I don't even know quite how they lost a saddle, but there we go. We've bent derailleurs back. We've done running repairs, and I think that. So my brother also builds bikes, fabricates and builds bikes from scratch.
Okay, wow.
He's a very, annoyingly clever like that. So he's got a brilliant sort of working relationship with bikes, and so we'll always help somebody out if we can. I forget how many punctures I've sorted out for people and things like that, because that's what we do, and we don't charge for it. It's just
about that personal touch that you want people to feel that you care for them, and rather than just thank you for your money.
I don't want people to feel that. I do. I genuinely do. And one of the reviews that we had was that by the end of the day, you feel like you're sort of part of the Hafod family, and that's it. That is it. That is like hitting the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned.
Brilliant.
And I think metaphorically and physically, it's close to home. So I am sat here in my house. The uplift goes past my front door. And from that perspective, it's like inviting people and welcoming people into my back garden. That is what it is. And so you wouldn't invite somebody round to your house and then not want them to have a nice time when they're here.
For sure.
And I think that's part of it. If your kids' friends come home from school and for a play date after school, you're going to feed them pizza and chips because you want them to have a nice time. And I think that's it for that day, for that 6 hours when they're here with us. I want them to feel, if they want to, that there's people that just want to come and shred and ride and leave, and that's totally fine too. But for those that want to come and have the Hafod experience and fall in love with this place like we have, then that's available to them too.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, and one of the things that's kind of is coming through what is the passion, also the kind of the close unity that you have with your family, and that then is shown to the people, and the care that you have for every detail to make sure that everyone feels welcome.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of, as a small bike park compared to others, it makes me think like the fact that you're small is a contributing factor to your success. And feel free to like push back on that. But I'm just kind of creating this hypothesis of, as a small kind of agile business, you can stand out better against bigger competitors because you give that personal feel. You create that environment where you think about the little things that are not so little, such as the lifts, such as having a chat with the customers, make sure that they are having a good day. What's your take on? Do you think that being a small bike park is one of your superpowers in creating that welcoming environment?
I think it helps. When we first started, I think we were coming at it with, I suppose, some experience in terms of, I've ridden other bike parks. I, as a mum, knew what worked for us as a family, what didn't. I had friends that were massive cross section of people that I ride with, like riding different things. So we had this amazing blank canvas that we could turn into anything that we wanted to. And I think that was lovely. That was a USP, the fact that we were coming at it from nothing, and we could build whatever we wanted to, with a sort of, well, why can't we attitude. We've always questioned everything and not just assumed that the way it's always been done is the correct way. It might be the correct way, but
you're happy to question it and making sure that there are other alternatives.
100%. And then when you look at what we have here and what we're able to do, we do have this very, very unique opportunity where I can make it whatever we want it to be. We as a family have control over that to a degree. And I think year one was about proving it out, making sure it worked. Not just work, making sure it was brilliant, and making sure that everybody had a fantastic day and left having achieved something. And that might be, for somebody, a perfect jump over a table. That might be for somebody going and doing the drops. That might be for somebody conquering our black drop, which has become a little bit infamous. And it's a drop that gets into a lot of people's heads. And there's whatever that little achievement might be. But I think having that small, intimate feeling is actually, and I'm very, very conscious I don't want to lose that. Financially, we have to increase numbers a little bit. We have done this year. And actually, we haven't lost that personal touch. We haven't lost that, I don't believe anyway, certainly not in the feedback that I've had. We haven't lost that friendly, welcoming attitude. So this summer has been amazing. It's been so good. And September started off being a little bit quieter. It's picked up again a little bit now, which is
you're talking about it's like being good in terms of like sales numbers, in terms of
everything,
revenue.
Like genuinely, this summer has been awesome. I think that word is overused, but it really has been amazing. We've had the weather. The weather was on the whole really, really good. We've opened new trails. We've had loads of people here. We've had loads of people returning. We've had loads of newbies come that have then also become like regular customers. It's just been amazing. The whole summer has been phenomenal. Topped off by winning iBike Ride Trail of the Year. There's been loads of sort of personal and professional sort of big ticks that have been going on, which has been amazing.
You also been nominated Woman of the Year, shortlisted for these awards.
Don't even know how that happened. That was bizarre. I'm not even sure who nominated me, but I was absolutely thrilled. I don't know who's won. trying to get.
It's not yet been the
It
awards.
hasn't been
Are
announced
still to
yet.
come.
It's next. Is it next week or is it the week after? It might be the week after. Yeah, I'm trying to get to Birmingham that evening, but I'm sort of struggling with logistics at the minute. But yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things that we look back on year one, and we learned loads. We learned that we were there with most of it, and we just needed to build on that. We learned what people liked, what we were doing right. And then we've just taken that and just run with it, really. And that's not to say that it was, that we can't do things differently. But we seem to sort of, for right now, hit the nail on the head, and I'm really pleased with that. So year two has been about building and expanding and developing what we've got. And now, as we come into what will be our third year, which is that's mind blowing, because winter's going to go like that. It just does. And I'm looking forward to this winter and the plans that we have. But as you say, being that small new business, in some ways, it's such an exciting time at the moment, I think, to be in this industry. I think that there's a lot of negativity around mountain biking and teams withdrawing from races and things, and you just sort of think, oh guys, you've got to get back to grassroots. And I think that's what we do here, is that grassroots element of it. Not to say that if you're a more experienced rider you won't come and have an amazing day. We've built 2 new trails, although they're not open yet. We're hoping to be able to open them very soon. One's a black and one's a red. And so we genuinely do have, it's that cliche, but we have something for everybody. Once these 2 trails are open, we're going to have 1 green, 2 blues, 4 reds and 2 blacks. And I think that there is something that does suit everybody's style of riding. And we're quite proud of that, really.
Yeah, that, as it should be. And as one of the things that comes through kind of as well is that what it sounds like, having different perspectives, your partner, your brother, your parents, and even your children has perhaps helped you to look at from different angles, how to cater to an experience both for young children, for experienced mountain bikers, for families, and that is unique. That is something that needs to be kind of honed and like perfected.
It's nice that you picked up on that. Thank you, because we think it's really important in terms of inclusivity. And we have riders that have been here from 3. The youngest has been 3. The oldest has been 82, I think.
Wow.
But age, gender, ability, it makes no difference. We can all have fun on a mountain bike, and that's something that I learned from. Well, partly from Dame Forest cycling, partly from having kids, and kids that are into it. But more recently, I've been involved with Project Fierce, and I don't know whether you know of Project Fierce.
I've heard. I know a lot about it. I've interviewed in the past Dr. Fiona Spotswood.
Oh my God, she's like my idol. She's amazing. I'm seeing it tomorrow, actually. But inclusivity is at the very core. It's like everything as far as Project Fierce is concerned. And being involved with that has actually really opened my eyes about how important it is to have that accessibility and that inclusivity. But that's a whole other podcast. So you know that. But it's been a very organic process for me in terms of I came to Project Fierce in the whole scheme of things relatively late, but it was kind of nice when I was looking at their framework going, oh, I've kind of done that. Oh, that's good. I did that. Oh, that's good. Oh, no, I can improve on that. I can take that away. And it's kind of like my personal mission to get more women, and particularly young women and girls, into mountain biking. And I've got a plan. I'm a woman with a plan. I've built, and I say I because it has been me. And one of the things I have learned actually with all of this is you've got to blow your own trumpet because no one else is going to do it for you. If recognize your achievements and actually go. I was always like a little bit too like, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. But no, I've been more like, you know what, actually yes, because women in particular and young girls, they need somebody to stand up and go, yeah, I did that. I'm a woman and I did that. And I'm always trying to impress on my daughter, who's the eldest of our 3 kids, to have a little bit more confidence in herself and to lead out those boys because you are quicker than them. And she'll always like, oh no, go on, after you. And then she'll spend the whole time like on their rear wheel. but actually, as far as my sort of personal mission, I've built this amazing community of women that come here regularly, that ride out in the forest with me regularly. And they are the most amazing, diverse, interesting, strong group of women. And I had a very interesting conversation with a gentleman who was like, well, but why do women need this? Why do women need the special treatment? Wow. And I'm like, he was coming at it from a very interested point of view. He wasn't being sort of he was genuinely interested. And I was like, you need to watch some of Fiona's stuff and and look at the framework, and then you will realise why. So I was like, I'm not going to go into it now, but it was really, really interesting to sort of listen to somebody's perception of why women get special treatment. And I was like, because they need it, because we are awesome and we deserve it, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. And it's not special treatment; it's just encouragement in the right way to do something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that again, you're talking about kind of our USP and our being small. That is one of the things that allows me to do that. I ultimately have control about what I put on social media, and I'm really rubbish at social media. I don't profess to be good at it at all. It's not something that I think generationally I'm probably about 5 years too late to be good at it, and I'm getting better. But that's been a journey for me. But I'm in control as to what I put on social media, the image of the bike park that we portray, and what people, irrespective of, say, their age or their gender or their ability, what people experience when they get here, and that is something that I feel incredibly honoured, actually, to have the ability to do, to be able to influence somebody's journey into the sport or return to the sport or whatever it may be. And it's amazing when there was 2 people that I said, oh, you're both from, because I knew both of them individually because they'd both been here. I said, you're both from this place. Talk to each other. And they did. And they literally now are like best biking buds ever. And they go out together 3 times a week. And I was like, oh, that's because of Hafod. And that is the thing. That is where Hafod comes into its own, is that small business friendly approach. And those 2 wouldn't be mates. They've lived next to each other, geographically for years and had never met. And now they have, and that's because of us. So there you go.
Yeah, brilliant. The connections. I mean, that is, I think you're rightly in pointing out there's a whole podcast that we can just focusing on the role of women in mountain biking, and I've dedicated that in the past kind of episodes to that topic, and I wanted to touch on a few things because it's important for the conversation. The first is that the fact that when coming from you saying mountain biking is for everyone needs to be included, and coming from your perspective, you having the experience of Dr. Fiona Spotswood, having the FIAS project, which is fostering inclusive action sports, and having that framework to allow, I think helps to bring it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it does help in making the bike park more inclusive helps everyone feel represented and welcomed.
You've hit the nail on the head there.
Mm-hmm.
You can take those same principles from the framework, which is aimed towards women and minority groups, but you can take that same framework to include everybody.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that for me is a complete no-brainer, is that it can literally be for everybody, and that is what I have always tried to do, is make sure that we had facilities and accessibility for all groups. Because mountain biking is such an inclusive sport. And it is amazing when you see these little tots that they're, 4 or 5 years old, and then you've got lads in their kind of late teens and early 20s, and they're like, yeah, well done, yeah, go on, little man, go on, yeah, it's lush, it's amazing. And then, but it doesn't take very much to like harbour that attitude and harbour that vibe. And I think that running with those smaller numbers, coming back to that point, is that you do feel like everybody on your uplift. You will talk, you will chat, you're all in it together. You're part of that Hafod crew for the day. And my kids all ride at the park, and people like riding with them. They like riding with our customers, and it's all part of what we do, and I think it makes people feel included. But that isn't, as I say, that isn't something that's forced. That's something that's just happened.
Yeah, but I would argue that you need to be aware. Like, for instance, like you're talking about the representation and inclusiveness of the bike park. You need to think about the bias. You need to think about the stereotypes that are created in mountain bike, and you need to make sure that you address them so that the experience is a one of welcoming. So families, girls, women can look at what you put out on social media, can look out how the park is run, and see that it is for them. They can come and enjoy, have a great time, rather than be feeling that it's not it's excluding them. And that needs to be intentional. You need to have the intentional. You need to have the education to make those conscious decisions. And I think that is, well, I don't know you personally, but I think that is a lot of it is down to you personally, making that change, making those decisions happen. I mean, feel free to.
I have the power. I have the power, and it's within my power to do that. And I think that I have almost a position of huge responsibility, actually, to make sure that does come across. Exactly, and I'd like to think that when you look through our socials, it's equally represented in terms of age, gender, ability. And I will celebrate those wins, those goals, with each individual based on what their goal is. I had a hug from somebody the other day that had finally conquered something here after like 5 visits that she was really scared to do. And she just I just need to give you a hug. I've just done the roll. And she came, and it was just amazing. And brilliant. Whether that is the infamous black drop by the house, or whether that is the black drop in the skills area, whatever it may be, whether it's clearing the final table on the red jump line, it doesn't really matter. It's everybody's experience, and nothing can be belittled. Nothing can be belittled. And I think that we had a little lad a few weeks back who was, oh my gosh, bless him, he was crazy nervous. And my brother actually took the time to ride with him. Took the time just to go and ride with him for half a day. Actually ended up riding with him most of the day, actually, as it happened. But and I think it was really nice for Alex, who doesn't tend to be so customer facing. He drives the uplift occasionally, but generally is sort of super busy with other background stuff. Yeah. And it was really nice for him to see the positive impact that we can have on somebody's experience and somebody's journey. Oh, that sounds really silly, doesn't it? But somebody's, when he's like those memories, those core memories that he has, that particular lad, of conquering that trail and building his confidence. And it was lush to see that, even just over the space of a day. That's the thing. Again, it's a bit cliche, but progression. That's what we're about here.
Right, those are the experiences that you don't forget. It's like,
no, of course you don't.
Transformative, really.
Yeah.
I think that's, I guess, having that impact across the ages, people that come to the park. That's what I guess perhaps that's what defines the success of the business. Really, is like making sure that everyone comes out of it, as you said, with a big smile on their face,
with a massive smile, and having had the best day. That's it. That's what I want.
So that brilliantly brings me to the point of the podcast where I want to, you define what success looks like for the business. I now want to explore, what does success mean to you personally? Me personally,
yes. See, that's a really difficult one. I think because when you've got a fledgling business, you are that business. That business is you. Mm-hmm. But if we take away the business, if I've got to the end of the day and everyone is happy, everyone's been fed, and everyone's got clean pants, I think that's a win.
Brilliant. I mean, it's very personal, and all of the answers that I get on the podcast are valid because it's personal. But I hope that every single one of the answers that I get from every single podcast guest resonates with the listeners. It resonates with me because that shows kind of the care and attention you have towards your family, the affection that you have, and that's it shines through as well through the story that you.
It's good to know, because they do get a bum deal sometimes, the kids, because we are busy, and whilst I think they're good kids, they're well rounded. I mean, they're children, so they're certainly not perfect because they're humans at the end of the day, but they're a credit to me, and I'm incredibly proud of them, all three of them, and I'm incredibly proud of what they represent as well, because they're their own people, but they're us, they're part of us. And as I say, it's lovely when you can get to spend time with them, but it is tricky. It is tricky when you're trying to balance everything. But as I said, I think if everybody is going to bed happy and probably muddy, because that's how we roll. You can't. It'll wash. That's my motto. It'll wash.
Brilliant.
And that can be applied to sort of many things metaphorically. Yes, children can get in the shower and get washed. I can wash clothes, but also, nothing's permanent. Nothing's permanent. You can clean it. You can clean it. You can sort it out. It's all good.
Yeah. We seem like to have done a full circle from the beginning, where you're talking about looking at the positives, to where we're now still talking about the positives, still looking at what we've done, what we've achieved, and kind of focusing on the positives, the brighter side, and the opportunities that it allowed, to the connections and so forth.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we come to the point where to the podcast where I started a tradition where every guest that comes on the podcast leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. Okay. So the question that was left for you is the following.
Oh, okay.
So here you go. So I'm going to read it. What's the one thing you would, if you had a magic wand, the thing that you would change in the cycling industry to make it more inclusive for people?
Oh, do I get to find out who asked that question after I've answered it?
I can tell you after the recording.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so what would I change to make it more inclusive? A magic wand. I like the idea of a magic wand. I would encourage others to see their power. It is all of our responsibility to make those changes, and it's within every individual's power to make those changes. So those with a position of influence that have that ability, use it.
Mm-hmm. For the good.
Oh yeah, for the good. Absolutely, to increase that inclusivity.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's I think that's, yeah, if you have that power, and even if you don't have, it can be just
you can have it. It can be something so simple. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be because you asked specifically, or your questioner asked specifically about the cycle industry.
Yes.
And I think that answer would be specific, but I suppose to a degree, the cycle industry includes everybody that cycles to a degree, doesn't it? So put across the it's those posts that go up, Instagram versus reality. That is it, isn't it? Really, I'm sat here, and what I put across on social media is actually, it's fairly natural. It is what it is, and I'm very keen that people should be honest with things. And if you have that ability to give something an inclusive and an honest review, then you should do so.
Brilliant. I think it's a powerful way to end this conversation, because it just gives a call to action to people to think 100%. Of their position, whether it's whatever power they have. Maybe it comes with privilege, so that if they recognize that and make a decision to make a good impact in
a change for
to them, or within the cycle industry, that that in itself, small steps will add up and
make a huge difference. Lots of small steps by lots of people can have such an impactful change, and it would be so exciting to see that.
Precisely. So, Charlie, I wanted to thank you massively for your openness, your honesty. It's kind of it's refreshing to, and at the same time energizing to hear you and kind of understand more about the purpose that you have, and how you, together with your family, built Hafod Trails, and how you're making a difference in how you run it for the better. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I hope that I have maybe just inspired or helped or done something to just one person. That would be good for me.
What a brilliant conversation with Charlie. If this episode got you thinking about how cycling, or any other passion for that matter, can shape your mindset, please share this episode with your friends who could use this spark too. And don't forget to hit subscribe or follow The Ride to Success wherever you listen to it, because that way you'll never miss an episode. We'll be back soon with more stories from people redefining cycling, not just as a sport, but as a business, movement for creativity, resilience, and growth. Until then, keep riding towards your own success. Thanks for listening.